I think one of the issues in the country at the moment that is heartbreaking, and, you know, I'm a fairly hard character, but I just feel really sad when I see homeless people in the streets, no matter where they are. Up in Queensland, that you've got like the rest of the country, a rental crisis. There was a story this week about one woman who'd shut down her cafe. I think she had a cafe on the coast somewhere last June. She's been homeless ever since, and she's now resorted to ringing old school friends she hasn't spoken to in years to find out if she can sleep on their couch. Surely we've got as a country to do something about this. It's a crisis that we have to fix.
Well, absolutely. And, you know, like Lisa and I were going to a function in the CBD of Brisbane last night, and, you know, it's quite confronting, the literally rough sleepers on the streets of Brisbane, and we barely had any of that going back sort of 10 years ago. And what concerns me though, Steve, is that all the talk by the politicians is the wrong sort of talk. The answers to the housing crisis are actually about deregulation, less red tape and bureaucracy. We need to free up land supply, both greenfields and also, you know, vertical, you know, real estate opportunities. We need to cut back on the red tape in terms of building a new home. We need to actually get councils to get on the put on the gas pedal and get approvals through the system. And we need to take off the shackles in terms of the rental market. There are stories now coming out of Argentina that new president, since he has removed a lot of the red tape and issues around landlords and how the rental market works, that actually the rental market has freed up and prices for rents have come down. Now, those are the sorts of things we need to do. But in Australia, with the left wing that sort of governments that are in the ascendancy, we're seeing all the wrong policy prescriptions. And it's a really worrying thing. I think it could get worse before it ultimately gets better.
And just finally, I mean, I was walking past some state government-owned housing, which is housing for people who can't afford to pay full rent. Many of these places are empty. Do you reckon, Campbell, any state government administration in recent times has done an audit of how many of the properties they own are actually empty?
Look, that's a really good question, and frankly, I don't know the answer to that. But what I can tell you is there's a problem here in Queensland. When I was a Premier, for example, we had a great deal of trouble trying to convince the Labor Party, and indeed some of the groups and the NGOs in the space, that we needed to have a policy where, say, if there was a person, an elderly person who was living in a house capable of accommodating a family of four, that it was right and appropriate that we actually offer that property up to a family and try and get that person who's living alone into more suitable accommodation. You've got to have flexibility. The other big problem, by the way, and this is in Queensland, I can take you within two or 3 kilometres of this studio where there are all sorts of Queensland government properties, vacant land and properties that are just sitting there that should be being used. Literally 2 kilometres from here, there is a vast block of land that is vacant. And it's been vacant for the entire 9 years of the Palaszczuk and Miles government. And yet there's a crisis. So they can do a lot better.
Yeah, my point exactly. I think someone needs to do that audit. Campbell Newman, always great to catch up with you on a Friday. Thanks very much for your time.